Do it. I'm too fat right now. Don't take any pictures, Jim. I'm fat.
Yeah, Jim.
There's Andrew looking huge.
Fat stuff up.
Me looking small. Look how much smaller I am. Now Andrew really blows me away. Look at this shit. Look at the difference.
Oh, they're still bigger than mine.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they're still lean though.
All right, let's compare quads here. Who's got bigger quads? Andrew or me?
That one, I think.
Let's see. Oh, Andrew's.
Yours are still deep though.
Andrew's killing me. He's killing me. Okay, so what we're trying to bring to you here is reality again. And so none of what we're going to show you here, especially about training and physiological changes to the body or appearance of the body or any of this jazz, none of this is going to be sugar-coated or cleaned up or sanded or made glossy and shiny, just so it's more palatable to the viewer. It's not going to be done that way. It's just going to be reality, the truth. And the truth is, as you see, Andrew's still getting bigger. He has aspirations of competing on a pro level, so he needs that pro card. And there have been some very heavy hitters on the inside that have, suggested this course of action to him, that you need to take a year off and come back and stop, screwing around doing these small-time shows, relatively small-time shows, and no insult intended to anybody else or no disrespect to what anybody else is doing. And come back, take a year off, and come back ready to try and go for and get a pro card, because that's a pro caliber physique. You just need to polish it up. So that's about as sweet as it gets when you talk to anybody in high places that's going to give you some feedback. So that's what we're trying to do. And the reason that, Andrew holds a great deal of water, and there's a lot of pluses to that, helps to stabilize the muscle. A fully hydrated muscle is a muscle capable of more powerful and greater contraction with less chance of injury. So all this holding all this water, it's there's a lot of upside to that. Appearance-wise, of course, it doesn't look as good as when you're lean and you're conditioned and hard. But the other thing that I want to point out and make sure that everybody understands is when you're really, really big, not just jive big, or what a lot of you folks, no insult again intended, but a lot of what you folks think is big when you see it, it's not really big. Big, really big, that's, you're not going to really see a guy that's really big and really conditioned without there being a bunch of anabolics involved. And nobody that's trying to do what he's trying to do wants to be on a whole bunch of anabolics all year round. That's just not a smart approach, unless you're in so much of a hurry that you don't care, and eventually you're just going to be, end up winning the title of maybe the most muscular guy in the graveyard. Now, if you're not trying to be the most muscular guy in the graveyard, and you're trying to do all this with some semblance of safety and health consciousness, and yeah, it's not the healthiest thing you can do with yourself at all, but disregarding that, if you're going to do it anyway, the more healthful approach is going to be to do it like an old school type of thing, where you come off and you bulk, just like back in the old days, and then you go back on just to polish everything up and to clean everything up and to prepare to compete. That you don't need to stay on year round like that. A lot of guys think that you do at this level, so you do not. So it'll be nice to watch Andrew's journey, as it unfolds, and we'll see what he's going to look like. He's got a long way to go yet. Like I said, this has been a downtime period for him. He's just acquiring new mass and every other thing, and the healthier way to do it, believe it or not, is not to be concerned, not trying to get sloppy fat. Like I said, he's holding mostly water there, is to not be on a whole bunch of bullshit just because you're worried about your appearance. So that means, yeah, your body weight's going to go higher up than your stage weight by a larger fraction than if you were going to stay on shit all the time and then you could stay leaner and harder, right? So, because as a natural or a guy that's off gear, you can be really, really big, and there's a lot, and of course, it's all about genetic limitation there, but you can get really big, or you can get, really shredded and conditioned. I've seen guys that are naturals that shredded to the bone. Then nobody would believe they're naturals, but again, we're talking to a pool of people that largely you really do not know. Some of you guys out there know, but most of you really do not know. You really don't. You're just going by what other people tell you. And it's kind of like if you're going to go and buy a car, or you're just going to go by what other people tell you. You're going to test drive the car for yourself. You're going to drive the car for yourself and find the one that's right for you. Okay, so everybody, there's an ideal approach for you. And that ain't going to be the same approach necessarily for the guy next to you or the guy over there or the girl over there. It's going to be different for everybody. People that tell you that that's not the case, that the same thing works for everybody, they just don't know. They don't know. You understand what I'm saying? They're going to tell you all about how a car handles and drives and all by what they've read. They've never gotten behind the wheel and driven that car. That's what I'm telling you. I've been behind the wheel and driven the hell out of that car till the wheels came off, basically. And that's what we do. So this is reality. And without a whole bunch of anabolics on board, you're going to have to, take that size up old school way. You're going to have to do a bulk. You're going to have to bulk up. And that's what he's doing. So now what am I doing? Well, I'm still getting smaller. Now I've been off for I don't even know how long now. I haven't lifted and I don't really know how long now, but it's been a while. I don't really keep track. I'm just going by feel and what I look like and what I feel like and what the scale's saying really, which normally I wouldn't go by that. But I'm thinking that I need to weigh myself yet, but I think I'm around 230 pounds. I don't think I'm a whole lot bigger than that. I might be 235 at the very, very most, between 230 and 235. So still look like I'm holding a good deal of muscle for that, but in reality, if you're standing next to me, that's what I'm saying, then you would really know, because then you would, if you had seen me and stood next to me, and some of you have, when I was at these larger sizes, 260, 270, you probably would have been like, and people were like, Jesus Christ, that's a lot bigger than what you look like, on camera. And then when you, if you stood next to me now, you would be like, damn, you're a lot smaller than you look like on camera. Because the camera, you really can't tell a whole bunch of shit on film like this. You really can't. Because you don't get that three-dimensional aspect. It just doesn't pick it up like that. So, I'm a lot smaller. I'm just a shadow of my former self. And I'm going to let myself, since I'm not working out or any of that, I'm going to let myself get in kind of just regular guy condition. That's what I'm trying to do. But with all the history that I have, all the past that I have, and everything that's gone into it over these decades, which I am the sum of all of that, this physique is, it's still not the same as a totally natural guy, how things could work for him maybe, or how they can't, or whatever, right? So just because you see me do whatever it is I end up doing, my prediction is I believe I know I can be 230 almost shredded, natural. I know I can. I have that much muscle. I have that much nuclei, additional nuclei. I have that much muscle. And again, it's just some of everything that I've done with my body and to my body over this many decades preceding this time. So even though I'm off now, I can stay off. It's still not going to be the same thing as if I had never had all these decades of lifting, never had all the time that I have had with elevated testosterone levels, et cetera, on and off throughout all this time period. But it's the best I can do from here. What can I do about that? So I'm going to let myself get kind of out of shape, let everything soften up some as much as it's going to. I got all the skin softening up, won't snap back, too quickly anymore because I'm old. And then we're going to see what I look like, just a pair of shorts, and I'm not going to look very good. My midsection is probably going to look flabby and all that shit. And then we're going to turn it around, and I'm going to start to work out and show you what I do and what I eat and every other thing. And I'm going to do it from as natural as I can be, which means I'm not on anything. But again, you just cannot discount what I've done prior to this point leading up to this. You just can't. I still have all that benefit. It's a shitload of muscle that I've acquired. It's not going to just all disappear like people think it does. If you're one of those guys that comes on out of nowhere and goes from 0 to hero very quickly because, you think you need to take grams of shit, then yeah, if you come off, you're probably going to just dry up and blow away and just going to look like you did before you started. But me, I can never look like I did before I started. Physiologically, I just can't. It's impossible. I have too much nuclei now. I have too much muscle that I've acquired and grown, not just hypertrophied, and I'll never lose it. And if you don't understand what all that is, as many times as I've tried to explain it, you can just Google search it and you can find the studies on it and read about it yourself. So, I think one of the biggest problems in this, I hate to use this term because I don't feel I'm a part of it, in this industry, I think one of the biggest problems, the biggest problem, is the viewer, the spectator, the voyeur, looks at it from the outside and they're hearing things from a lot of other people that are also actually looking at it from the outside. What I mean by that is they've never been behind the wheel and driven that car that they want to tell you how to drive. That's what I mean by that. They're going to tell you how to gain all this mass. They've never had any. They're going to tell you how to get 20-inch arms. They've never had any. Or how to build these really, separated and shredded quads, and they've never had any. So that's one of the biggest, I think, fouls in the whole thing. But that's the easiest for you to see. Nolo contendere. Let the buyer beware, more or less, right? If you're looking at a person and they've never been there, they've never been behind the wheel of that car, are you just going to take, your motivation and your instruction from somebody like that, where all they did was read a couple of reviews in Motor Trend or something else, and they're just passing that on to you and telling you they can tell you what the best car for you is, and they can tell you that this one's superior to that one and it drives so much better or it handles this and that, and in your circumstance it's going to be for your application, this is the way to go. They don't know. They've never driven that car. They just read about it. They read what other people who have driven that car have written. And then they don't even know that. That's best case. They could just be looking at another numbskull that wrote down about what it's like to drive that car, and that son of a bitch never drove it either. Whereas I've driven that car till the wheels come off, basically. And so have the rest of us here. So, you guys be your own judges. If you see these numbers that some of these channels have, and these guys are just offering this moronic advice, it's ridiculous. And you believe it. And that's what cultivates the belief, all these falsehoods that people think. That, you come off, it just goes right away. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Not if it was ever really yours. No, it doesn't. Anyway, this is about living life. One aspect might be that you work out. One aspect. And we can talk about that a lot, like I've always said all day long, because it's an interest we have in common. But there's a lot more to life than that. A lot more to life than that. And there's a lot more to my life than that. It's a small portion of my life. A small portion. That's why you don't see videos from me every single day. It doesn't occupy the largest majority of my day-to-day. It just doesn't. Now, the Gorilla with Cause efforts, I walk around like that 24/7. I try to carry that outlook all the time.